An international survey has found that we spend less time in the office than our European neighbours, and we work more hours from home than almost every other nationality. UK employees spend an average of 1.5 days a week working remotely, but apparently we're not satisfied with that. We'd prefer to be spending even more time working from home. Is that fair enough, or should we all get back to the office? Mike, I can see you shaking your head already at this.
I just hate working from home. I mean, look, the many negatives of lockdowns because of COVID, you know, business, industry, everything else. But this is one of the worst. And it's one of the worst because it's suddenly given a vast number of people in this country a sense of entitlement that they don't have to go to work. But you do have to go to work because work is what you do in order to establish yourself in life around which everything else should spin. You know, your family, your profession, how you earn your money and all that kind of stuff. And when the tail starts wagging the dog, yeah, OK, I'll take your job, but I'm taking it only on my terms. We are finished. We've got to have a real radical rethink about getting people back into offices. Nina and I have worked in media organisations for the past few decades. Can you possibly not have, done it, Nina, without being in a newsroom and, headbanging with your colleagues?
I have not worked in an office since 1987, about which I am very happy.
Really? You're a specialist writer.
I loathe offices.
Yeah. Well.
I have officephobia. I don't like to go to them. So I can understand that completely. But I do agree. I do think as a nation we are quite lazy. We
Very
really
idle.
are. We always have been.
Yeah.
Our productivity is lower than many countries in Europe.
Almost every country in Europe, and particularly in the public sector.
But do you think laziness and working from home should be connected?
Not necessarily. But if you work from home, I mean, I think the pandemic was a huge game changer, obviously, because people suddenly had to be at home, and then they put their head over the parapet and thought, oh, this is, awful being restricted, but this is rather nice. I don't have to go to the office.
I'll sit on my Peloton.
So that was.
If you can sit on your Peloton, Mike, and do work, isn't that a good thing?
But you can't sit on your Peloton and do work. I've heard of multitasking, but
maybe
going for a 10-mile
can.
bike ride while you're supposed to be sorting out,
I can
nuclear fission or
listen
something.
A lot of people can multitask, Mike.
Yeah, well, I can multitask.
Mostly
but
women, though, so
not
I don't think Mike
not on
would
a
know about
bike.
that.
I mean, look, the only other country that is lazier than us is Canada. But of course, 1/3 of Canada is uninhabitable because it's frozen.
And I have to say, I was in Canada in May, and they were everywhere I went, people wanted to have a chat. They were so nice, they were so friendly. So maybe this is a thing,
What did they want to chat about?
Just say, hi, good morning, nice to see you. I'm thinking maybe, they're happy.
Huge
The thing is, going back to laziness as opposed to working from home, there was a report just a couple of years ago which said that from 2002 onwards to 2018, that the British sat for more than 4.5 hours. They took that as a measure of British people sitting for 4.5 hours, or anybody sitting for 4.5 hours, and that the number of people doing that had risen by 22% in this country, whereas, for instance, in Italy, it had risen by 0.9%. France, we were the ones who sat on our bottoms more than anybody else.
In offices or at home?
Anywhere.
Well,
which is a certain laziness about
idleness again.
So a lot of jobs actually require you to sit down, and not be. And if you're working from home, then you're not doing the commute, so you're not getting up and walking to the station or walking to the bus. You probably start a bit early, so you sat for even longer.
But sitting writing, you are just sitting. I have to make myself get up and move. Yeah. And actually, I've got a little pedal thing where I move my feet on it.
It's the end of society.
But the thing is, how many people want to work from home more people want to work from home in the summer than the winter?
Of course they do, because they want to get out into the garden.
Or is it more that actually we need to change with the times, and we can't live in the past anymore, Mike? We've gone through COVID and we've realised that actually there are different ways that we can work now, and people can still be productive working remotely versus spending 2 hours trying to get to an office, working for a bit and then travelling home.
Nina quite correctly said, the productivity in this country is near the bottom of the league in Europe, if not the bottom of the league. That's because if people don't interact with each other, they don't come up with ideas, they don't stimulate energy, they don't stimulate enterprise that we need to go forward as a country. Honestly, it's the end of civilization as we know it if people don't go back to work into an
You
office.
said that you get office phobia, and I think that's really interesting because actually a few of my colleagues and friends who work in TV have found it very, very difficult post-COVID going into an office environment. In fact, it induces anxiety, but they've almost had to be forced in certain situations to do that, but it has helped in a way. Do you think we actually need to be a bit more forceful with people that don't want to go to an office?
I agree with Mike. We need social interaction, particularly creativity. You do need to bounce off people, and I think people have during the pandemic lost the skill of kind of face-to-face contact.
Totally agree.
And that was wrong. But you do need a work-life balance, and I think we were the country where we stayed longer in the office than anybody, whether we were producing more or not, and that had to change. But I think the pendulum has to swing back the other way because what's happening is that city centres are hollowing out, and it's not just us. Washington apparently,
Washington DC,
the centre is dead. If you go to the city of London, it's dead.
Canary Wharf's the same.
Yeah. What is it that gives you office phobia, Nina?
I just don't
What is
know.
it about it?
There's a lot of time wasting. There's a lot of time wasting.
Isn't that lazy?
Yes, it is.
I think there's time wasted in office.
There is time wasting. First of all, you've got to put up with people you don't like. That you wouldn't normally.
That gives you social skills.
No, you wouldn't choose to be with people.
Isn't that life?
That gives you social skills.
We all have to put up, but if you can choose not to, then
that's Mike saying that's a sense of entitlement. If you can then
it is honestly.
choose.
You're lazy at home because you get up and have a cup of tea. There's one boss I worked with once, and an even bigger boss than him, a media magnate, said that man isn't happy unless he's got a room with 30 people who can spend all day shouting at, OK? Now, that's not the sort of office environment you want, but, that's what your skills in life are all about, to get around those sort of problems and to interact with people, to stimulate others. The great thing I worry about, Nina, is elder people not being able to pass on their skills individually to younger people in an office.
Let's try and squeeze in a call here. We've got Tina from Buckinghamshire. Hi, Tina.
Hi.
Do you think Brits are the laziest in Europe?
Sorry? Yeah, I do think so. I do, absolutely. I remember a survey being done not long ago when they interviewed teenagers, and the majority of them said they had no intention of ever working.
Yeah, I saw that,
And I don't understand why they're getting benefits for doing nothing. In my day, it was called the dole. You went on the dole, you signed on, you were offered a job. If you refused it, no money.
And you were called a skiver, Tina, if you didn't go back and find another job somewhere else. Skiving now is a national institution.
You were on the books, of being on the dole. And I just find it absolutely disgusting that these children of today are just walking around on the phones, doing nothing and getting paid for it. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Thanks for your call, Nina. Is the other argument to that we actually do need to define new ways of working, actually think about what makes us happy in a workplace? Employers need to be thinking outside the box to ensure that we're productive. If that means working remotely, then is that such a bad thing?
Why has happiness got to go up in the ratings
because
and
it makes us more productive and it makes us more... It could actually help within the workplace.
The thing is, if you're accustomed to working in an office and then you're suddenly working from home, it's actually quite hard to discipline yourself to make sure that you get the work done. I mean, because I'm freelance and I work from home, I work all the hours that I need
whenever
to get the job finished. If I was on a salary, would I be doing the same thing? I don't know that I would.
No,
I don't know that I would. But because so I work late at night or get up very early and do something, because I have to.
Yes. We've got a couple of posts on social media. Edgar on Twitter says, it doesn't make us lazy. Most of Europe have more holidays than we do. And Stuart on Facebook says, as someone who works from home and also has to go out on site to do surveys, I've always been busy. It just means I can save a bit of money. You're nodding your head there, Mike.
Our last caller, the young person problem, is a huge problem in this country. I see young people now who take utter offence if you make some comment about their work in the workplace or something like that, they go on strike. And I know other people who take gap years, even though they've been in work for 10 years. Time for a gap year now. I'm going off to Australia for a year. And I say, why would you put your career on hold?
That's perfectly fine. It really is.